I've been promoted to a director at a big company. You're still as incompetent as ever.
At our middle school reunion, Joe Brown looked at me and mocked me. I sighed, thinking he hasn't changed a bit. Joe has always maintained his pride by comparing himself to others. Without him, the reunion would have been much more enjoyable. Joe seized the opportunity to boast to me. Since we went our separate ways after high school, Joe didn't know my career path or what I do now. He used to interrupt others' conversations with, "in my case," followed by some bragging story. It was time to bring Joe down a peg. That's great. By the way, do you know who the president of your company is?
Huh?
As Joe looked puzzled, I revealed the truth. My name is Alex Mirror. I work at a major multinational company and am 40 years old. I've always driven forward with youthful energy. But at 40, I can't rely on youth alone anymore. Saying, I'm not young anymore feels a bit sad. But from here, experience becomes a valuable asset. I've gained a fair amount of experience and plan to cherish future encounters and events more. Even though my life is going well now, my childhood was challenging. I lost my father to illness when I was young and was raised in a single-parent household. My mother, who ran a beauty salon, raised me alone. People often associate single motherhood with a sense of struggle. But my mother was different. Always well-dressed and even glamorous. She was my pride. She had a knack for business. And by the time I entered elementary school, she owned 3 beauty salons. However, some adults around us held prejudices. They speculated that a wealthy man was behind her success. These rumors had a reason. My facial features were different from others, leading to talks that I had foreign ancestry. When I asked my mother, she neither confirmed nor denied these rumors. Maybe my father is still alive somewhere in this world. Wanting to find him, I began studying Spanish on my own. I wanted to attend Spanish classes, but out of consideration for my mother, I self-studied. I used free resources like YouTube and radio, studying diligently. I was a bright kid, excelling in other subjects as well, and became a top student. In lower elementary school, I started learning Italian and French too. Once you master Spanish, learning other languages with similar grammar becomes easier. I continued learning various languages, aiming to be able to communicate with my father wherever he might be. I kept my multilingual studies a secret from my classmates. There was a reason for this. That reason was Joe Brown, who was in my class. Joe and I had often been in the same class since kindergarten, and he had his issues. My mother believed boys should play in the mud, but Joe's mother was focused on his education, enrolling him in prep schools from a young age. Unfortunately, Joe didn't get into his mother's preferred schools and ended up in public school. In this environment, it's no wonder Joe thought he should be the smartest kid in public school. However, I was always scoring perfect marks and was highly regarded by teachers. Joe must have felt that things weren't going as expected. I was in the place where he believed he should be. He saw me as a rival, especially since I had been receiving advanced Spanish education from a young age. Surpassing him in grades made him very upset. Still, his prep school efforts paid off, and he reclaimed the top spot in our grade for me. Whenever he won, he'd call me incompetent to belittle me.
You're still as incompetent as ever. Don't think you can ever beat me. No matter how hard an incompetent person tries, it won't amount to much.
When I didn't respond, another classmate approached with a puzzled look.
Why does Joe call Alex incompetent? Alex has better grades in many subjects.
If that word is enough to settle things, I don't mind being called incompetent as many times as it takes.
The fact that you can feel that way already makes you the winner.
We became well-known rivals in our grade. During exams, the question, which one won this time, became a hot topic. As we approached our third year of middle school, no definitive ranking was established. The battleground shifted from regular school tests to high school entrance exams. By then, Joe completely ignored me and avoided eye contact. When our eyes did meet, his gaze was filled with hostility, as if saying I was his enemy. I focused on studying for public high schools from the start, assuming Joe would go to a different world and ignoring him. Thus ended a long and, for me, unwanted battle. Joe got into a famous private high school in the city, and I went to the top public high school in the area. With Joe gone, my student life finally became peaceful, or so I thought, until the topic of studying abroad came up during the summer vacation of my first year in high school. My teacher had entered a Spanish essay I wrote during class into a contest without my knowledge, and it caught the eye of Santiago Garcia, a businessman from Spain. The teacher called my mother and me into the classroom after school.
This is a great opportunity. The school year in Spain starts in September, so you can start as a freshman at a high school in Seville, Andalusia. Studying there for 3 years will open up many options for your future.
You can return to the US or stay in Spain and attend a foreign university. Alex, you must seize this opportunity. As a man, you can't miss this chance.
I nodded silently at my mother's words. I felt my ambition to travel the world in search of my father had faded, but studying abroad seemed like it would offer a global perspective for my future. Santiago, who had discovered me, would fund my studies. Thus began the second chapter of my life. I moved to Andalusia and started high school in a place where I couldn't speak the language. At first, I often felt like crying, but Elena, the daughter of my host family, always comforted me. Elena, 5 years younger than me, was a beautiful girl with distinct Latin features. She had a strong interest in American culture, like fashion and vintage items, and spoke fluent English. With Elena, I could be my true self. After graduating from a Spanish university, I married Elena. We decided to return to the US, and I got a job at a multinational company with a branch there. Following company policies, we moved frequently, but Elena and I felt no inconvenience. At the milestone age of 40, a major change came, and we returned to America for an extended stay. This stay will be quite long, lasting several months. A middle school reunion was scheduled during our time back, and I decided to attend. My middle school memories mostly involved studying, so there weren't many, but I clearly remembered Joe's face. Back then, Joe's face was covered in pimples. Now, working at a major multinational company, he must have been taking better care of his appearance. The reunion was held at a famous restaurant in the city, which we had rented out. Classmates could bring their spouses too. Elena, intrigued by American reunions, insisted on coming later. Finishing work early, I almost asked my secretary to call a car, but changed my mind. Why not take the streetcar for a change? Riding the streetcar, I reminisced about showing Elena around the US for the first time. Elena was amazed by the cleanliness and quietness of American streetcars, which made her love the US even more. Climbing the station stairs and stepping outside, it started to rain lightly. I covered my head with my coat and hurried to the restaurant. The restaurant was reserved for us, and inside, a flamboyant woman was at the reception.
Alex, you haven't changed a bit. Still as handsome as ever. Don't you recognize me? It's Nicole.
Nikki, long time no see. You haven't changed at all.
Oh, stop it. You've gotten better at flattery. I've gained 40 pounds since then.
I took a glass of champagne at the entrance and had a sip while glancing around. The air of maturity and calmness exuded by my classmates was quite comforting. If only Joe weren't here, this would be a more enjoyable time. Unfortunately, Joe was at the center of the room, loudly boasting about something. I caught the word director here and there and pieced together what he was bragging about. I tried to slip away to the counter, but Joe's sharp eyes spotted me immediately.
Alex,
He called out as if we were old friends and walked over to me. His face still bore the scars of his old acne, and for a 40-year-old, his hair was rather thin. Ignoring his appearance, he gave me a smug smile.
I've been promoted to a director at a big company. You're still as incompetent as ever.
I sighed, thinking he hasn't changed at all, still calling me incompetent the moment he saw me. Joe has always maintained his pride by comparing himself to others. Without him, this reunion would be much more enjoyable. Joe seized the moment to continue his boasting.
Do you know the company I work for? It's Garcia Trading. I've been working hard at the American branch, but now I'll be traveling and transferring to overseas branches more often.
That's great. Garcia Trading is the most dynamic trading company right now. Depending on the department, if you're in the prestigious sales department, you'll be traveling abroad almost daily.
Don't pretend to know it all. I'm in the accounting department, but we also handle a lot of international transactions. The sales department may be prestigious, but the company wouldn't run without us.
His desperate emphasis on his position's importance only made me feel pity for him. On the other hand, he showed no interest in what I'm doing now. Since we took different paths after high school, Joe didn't know my career path and probably wasn't interested in what kind of work I do now. He always used to interrupt conversations with, "in my case," and start bragging. Being superior to others was important to him, but he didn't care about anything else. It was time to bring Joe down a notch. That's great. By the way, do you know who the president of your company is?
Huh? Our president? I heard the previous president recently stepped down.
Alex Garcia. Remember that name? At first, Joe didn't seem to understand, repeating the name several times. When he realized that Alex and Alex Garcia referred to me, he looked shocked.
No way, you're Alex Garcia?
Yeah, I go by the Garcia surname now. My father-in-law is the former president, Santiago Garcia. He stepped down to enjoy life and passed the presidency to me. He's now relaxing at his villa in the Caribbean.
You're kidding. How did a beauty salon owner's son become the president of a major multinational company?
I had a hard time keeping a straight face. To be honest, it felt incredibly satisfying to bring Joe down a peg like this. I briefly explained my life from high school until then. Joe listened in stunned silence. You've been working hard at Spanish since you were a kid. Didn't you think about studying abroad?
I did consider it and even went for language study during the summer. But studying abroad from high school requires significant financial resources.
Joe seemed shocked that someone like me, who wasn't wealthy, received top-notch overseas education from a young age.
But even if the former president liked you, I can't imagine him adopting you. For the rich, helping underprivileged young people is usually just a hobby.
Actually, I'm not adopted. I'm his son-in-law. My host family was Santiago's household, and having lived under the same roof as his daughter Elena, we both eventually decided to share our lives. Joe stomped his foot in frustration. If he had had such an opportunity, he would have wanted to follow the same path. Joe graduated from a prestigious American university, but must have considered studying abroad. Perhaps he didn't succeed in that pursuit. It's better to achieve good grades at an American university and get a job at a multinational company than to have his pride wounded. I decided to change the topic and asked another question. We've been getting on in years. Are you married?
Oh, right. She's Naomi, our former classmate.
That's an amazing story. Naomi was the crush of all us boys. Even though he could boast about it, Joe's expression remained glum. Eventually, the restaurant doors opened, and Elena entered, her dark brown hair flowing. Her radiant appearance caught the attention of my classmates.
Excuse me, my husband should be here. His name is Alex.
Alex is over here. Wow, Alex's wife is Spanish, and her English is so good.
Everyone was amazed by her fluent English and warmly welcomed her into the group. Elena, with her stunning looks, could be considered a trophy wife for an average-looking guy like me. When I waved to indicate where I was, Elena beamed and rushed into my arms. To Elena, such a display of affection is normal, but to my classmates, it seemed like something out of a drama. Elena seamlessly joined the group of women and continued conversing naturally. Joe, meanwhile, was seething with jealousy, glaring at me.
Why is it always you who gets all the good stuff? I've worked so hard to get to where I am.
Are you implying I haven't struggled? There are people who openly care about race in the world. Living abroad requires strength. I doubt someone who spends their time envying others could live as I do. The notion that knowing a foreign language makes living abroad enjoyable is a fantasy. When a foreigner rises to the top, many people aren't pleased. When Elena decided to marry me, many of her friends opposed it. Yet Elena's feelings remained unchanged, and we have a very successful marriage. As the party started and the drinks flowed, some male classmates began making blunt remarks to Elena.
What did you see in Alex? There must be plenty of good-looking Latin guys in Spain.
Oh, Alex is handsome. Not just in looks, but he's also kind and capable. Anyone would want to marry him.
You're lucky, Alex, having such a beautiful wife. My wife is pretty too, but she can't compare to Elena.
Elena and I quickly became the center of attention at the reunion. This made Joe even more resentful, and he continued drinking heavily. Even when classmates warned him about drinking too much, he ignored them. Soon, drunk Joe grabbed Elena and started bad-mouthing me, saying things that weren't true.
Elena, don't be fooled. This guy has no real talent and has only gotten ahead by manipulating others. You won't be happy with him.
That's not true. Alex is a wonderful husband. I'm happy every day.
That's just an illusion. The only way an incompetent person like him could become a president is by using women.
I stayed silent, but Elena's face turned red with anger. Elena has always been someone whose emotions show easily.
Why do you say such negative things? Aren't reunions supposed to be fun and nostalgic?
I don't want to say this, but he's incompetent. If I don't tell you the truth, you'll continue being deceived and unhappy in your marriage.
Unhappy? What are you thinking? Are you trying to insult my beloved husband?
Elena finally lost her temper. Once she gets fired up, it's hard to calm her down. I placed a hand on her shoulder and gently pointed out, Elena, your temper is showing. No matter what anyone says, as long as we're happy, that's all that matters. We overcame opposition when we were dating because our feelings were strong.
That's true, but he's being so rude.
Elena tried to calm herself by downing a cocktail in one go. To Elena, I am always a source of pride. She never expected one of my so-called friends to insult me.
I think you have a serious problem. Just as we have our own lives, you should focus on your own life.
Elena's English sounds a bit formal, like it's been translated, but she got her point across. At this point, a petite woman approached, took Joe's glass from his hand, and scolded him.
You've had too much to drink.
I recognized the woman. Although she has changed quite a bit, she's Naomi, who was a crush of all the boys in our class. When she saw me, she was a bit surprised, but gave a slight nod. Now that Naomi is Joe's wife, I wonder if she's truly happy. Joe, perhaps feeling ashamed of Naomi's plainness, treated her harshly when she tried to stand next to him.
Get over there. Seeing your pathetic face makes me sick.
Naomi then turned to Elena and me and started apologizing.
I'm sorry about my husband. Elena, please don't take it personally. Joe has always had a strong rivalry with Alex since middle school, and it frustrates him.
Frustrated? What's he so frustrated about?
For Joe, being above someone else is everything. But since Alex has surpassed him in many ways, he can't stand it.
Hearing this, Elena looked openly disgusted.
What a horrible man. I really despise him. Naomi, why did you marry such a man?
We started dating in college, and he was a very nice person at first. But after entering the workforce, things haven't gone as he wanted, and his personality has warped.
From what I know, his personality was bad long before he entered the workforce. But I kept that to myself. In any society, a husband who tries to dominate his wife is disliked and publicly criticized. I looked at Naomi carefully. For a 40-year-old woman married to a director at a major company, she should be dressed more elegantly. Her hair lacked shine, with strands of gray showing that she didn't bother to dye. Her heavy makeup only masked the inner glow that should have been there. Her clothes were clearly outdated, looking like she was trying to make do with fast fashion from years ago. She had none of the sparkle from her middle school days and seemed worn out and resigned. Seeing this, Elena gently placed a hand on Naomi's shoulder.
You should find yourself again. If you continue like this, you'll end up living a false life.
You're right, Elena. I need to rethink my life. I have this reunion to thank for making me realize that. I should thank the organizer.
Naomi then turned to Joe. She hesitated for a moment, but then seemed to gather her resolve and spoke.
From today, I'm no longer your wife.
What? Are you really taking the words of that airhead seriously? I just got promoted to director. The good times are just starting.
Even if we're financially well off, as long as I'm with you, my heart will never be satisfied. I feel like a new person and will start over on my own.
Joe tried to persuade her, but Naomi's mind was made up. As the successful reunion wound down and former classmates strengthened their bonds, Elena and I exchanged contact details with Naomi and said our goodbyes. Walking hand in hand with Elena, we felt the cold night air on our cheeks. If this weren't a safe area, we wouldn't be able to take a walk at night. In that sense, this is a very nice place. But I always feel a bit suffocated every time I return. However, Elena is always by my side. As long as she walks with me, I'll be happy anywhere. I put my arm around Elena's shoulder, holding her close with love. What happened to Joe afterward became clear through my messages with Naomi. Joe was not well regarded at work. He had no loyal subordinates to help him after his promotion to director. He became increasingly isolated at the company. Gradually, various problems began to arise within the accounting department. The biggest issue was that the accounting department handles the finances of the entire company. It soon came to light that Joe was embezzling company funds, and he was swiftly fired. He called me several times, begging to be reinstated.
Please, as an old classmate, save me. As president, you can arrange it.
I'm sorry, but I can't. I always consider what's best for the company. At 40, Joe lost his income, got divorced with Naomi, and was separated from his children. Gossipy classmates filled me in on details I didn't even ask for.
Joe always claimed to be a Spanish language expert since middle school. He became a tutor, but got too close to a married colleague, and her husband sued him.
Joe, despite his abilities, let his pride ruin his life repeatedly. I wonder how he plans to live from now on. A year has passed since then. Elena and I welcomed our first child, Michael. He has blue eyes and looks like an angel. After discussing it with Elena, we decided to move to our villa in Andalusia to create the best possible environment for raising him. The climate is great. The educational environment is excellent. And it's where I first set foot in Spain. Under the beautiful blue skies and by the sea, our family is living happily. Recently, my mother, who lives in the US, has also been visiting us for sightseeing, giving me the chance to show her my gratitude. During one of these visits, I got the opportunity to learn about my biological father, and with my mother's blessing, I successfully reunited with him. As expected, my father was a foreigner, living happily with another family in Spain. Though his hair had turned completely white, he was once a handsome man who captivated many women. We talked for hours, shook hands, and parted ways. Knowing we can meet anytime in the future lightens my heart. Elena mentioned that once our child-rearing responsibilities settle down, she would like to live in the US for a while. Living this globe-trotting life makes me realize that I am now in the future I once dreamed of as a child. What can I do to pass on the wealth of experience I have accumulated to the next generation? My father-in-law must have felt the same way when he decided to support me. Now, it's my turn to spend my life discovering and nurturing talented young individuals.